Hey y'all, it's Jackie. Are you ready for another amazing episode? Well, stick around because this week we dive deeper into the world of mummers with some performers and hear how they take on this crazy activity. We will also find out what made Thom go,
"Woo, I'm all excited."
And then learn why one of our guests said,
I always joke with my husband because every New Year's morning, I guess about 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, we wake up and, I'm exhausted because you have 3.5 hour, 4 hour sleep. And I look at him and I go, what? Why do we do this? Why?
All this and more on this week's episode of On a Water Break.
Let's go. Set it up.
Top of the show.
Form, check form. Cover down.
Do it again.
Run it back. And we'll see you at the show.
Welcome to another episode of On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk about everything you and your friends are talking about at rehearsal on a water break. This week we have a great group of hosts and a second helping of that crazy parade that happens in Philadelphia each New Year's. It's Mummers, the sequel. This week, Stephen and Beth talked to 3 performers who have different points of view regarding the activity. But before we bring in those guests, let's see who's hanging out with us on the sidelines this week. Nicole?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Just doing the things and getting ready and kicking it off for the Winter Guard season, and doing some more water break podcasts for the month of February. We've got some special ones going on.
I am so excited. I can't wait to dive into making those. It's going to be so much fun. And Thom, how about you?
Oh, hello. Getting ready to start our winter season out here in California as well. Very excited.
And we have a bonus hangout. They are literally not on a water break right now. I believe we have something coming in from Trevor.
Hey, this is Trevor Bailey reporting live from Colleen, North Carolina. I am with the WCU Pep Band, getting ready to play the Mercer Bears in an absolute thriller of a women's basketball game. We have a group of people who want to say hello to our podcast. The Cat House Band from Western Carolina wants to say hello. There you go. This is Trevor Bailey reporting live from Colleen, North Carolina with the WCU Cat House Pet Band, throwing it back to you in the studio.
Trevor is so much fun. Like, literally so much fun. And, yesterday, or we have been, interviewing for our Black History Month on a water break. We talked with Julian Williams yesterday, and oh man, he has so much information about what was going on in the 70s and until now. He had so much to tell us about, like where Black drum corps started and how he got started in it and how he became a captain and his transition from horn lineman. He was a soprano player into being in color guard. There's just so much. And I just loved sitting down and talking with him. It was great. He has been doing color guard for as long as I've been alive, literally.
Wow. I don't know about him. I see him on social media, always fishing.
Oh, really?
It's kind of like when people always post about their hobbies. I always tell people like Chris Pratt is actually my favorite sheep farmer because like that's what he always posts about on Instagram is his sheep. So
Yeah, he just had a baby one, right?
You did. He just had a baby sheep. I love it.
Would never know.
Well, I am so excited to see these interviews, Nicole, or to hear the interviews. I suppose I won't be seeing anything, but I'm excited to hear your interviews because like just getting to hear all of this history, you know, is just amazing to me because there's so much I didn't learn when I was in high school band just because I was a color guard person. So we weren't actually like in the band class and learning all the music history stuff. And it's going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And we have a big history project coming in April.
Ooh,
so
yes, we do.
Oh, so many people are going to find out like the origin story. And I mean, besides like a good origin story, you know, I'm a Marvel person, you know.
Yes.
But I mean, before Marvel, I'm a color guard person. I'm a pageantry person. I love a good origin story.
And we really need to know where it comes from, and we need to know why we do the things that we do. That's one of the big discussions we actually have on the Spintronics social media from time to time is like, should rifles still be a thing? Like why do we use rifles? Because there's some people who are like, they're guns, or they're guns in school or whatever. And it's like, that's not what it is. But it's going to be so great to have all that background and history knowledge and everything that will take it and people will understand a lot better about what we do.
Yeah, I grew up in New England, and that's a huge part of color guard out there is talking about the tradition and the history where it all comes from. So yeah, this could be a lot of fun.
I can't wait for you guys to share all this. It's going to be great. Okay, Stephen and Beth, I am tossing the Long Ranger headset over to you two, so take it away.
Well, we realized after talking to John Barron last week about the crazy thing we do in Philadelphia every New Year's Day, the annual Mummers Day Parade, that we just didn't do a deep enough dive into it. So if you haven't listened to that episode, you should definitely go back and listen to the John Barron episode and get a broad spectrum view of what the Mummers is, especially the string bands. I know I was certainly surprised to learn about the depth of time commitment that goes into the string band portion of the Mummers Parade, and the commitment that a lot of people have, not only to just their clubhouse, but to the event in entirety. It goes on for generations, and people do this, fathers, daughters, sons, grandparents. It's a legacy type thing. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from John's conversation last week. What did you think?
That was
Stephen?
something that was so surprising to me, is that it's really a lifestyle. And for many of the folks involved, including some of our guests that we'll speak to a little later on, they've been doing it for decades, and it's been such a strong part of their life, strong part of their social scene. I thought it was really interesting just to hear how John has kind of followed the Mummers his whole entire way through life, all the way from when he was a kid in his home neighborhood. But as I said last week, I got the opportunity to work with Greater Kensington this year, where I met John, got to meet some really great people. Some of these people are joining us today to dive deeper into Mummers and what it's like to be one. So we have several people from different backgrounds and experiences. I'm excited to get this conversation going. And as Beth said, if you didn't listen back to that first episode about the Mummers, I definitely recommend going back to listen so you can get to know the full history of this amazing activity. But just to give a quick recap, the Mummers Parade is held each year on New Year's Day in Philadelphia, and it's the oldest continuous folk parade in the United States of America. These local clubs, which we'll usually call New Year's Associations or New Year's Brigades, they compete in one of 5 different categories called comics, wench brigades, fancies, string bands, which is most of what we will be speaking about today, and fancy brigades. They prepare elaborate costumes, performance routines, and movable scenery props. That takes them months to complete and months to perfect. All this gets done in and around their clubhouses, most of which are near 2nd Street, which folks local to the area would call 2 Street, in the Pennsport neighborhood of South Philadelphia. And these clubhouses, they also serve as a social gathering place for all these members.
Yeah, when I was an undergrad a long time ago, I was invited to a clubhouse one time, and boy, did I have an eye-opening experience when I met the social scene of one. And I don't even remember which band it was, but it was a night I did not forget.
Sounds about right.
But let's take a moment and let's meet each of our guests. And the first guest I would like to take the time to introduce, her name is Colleen Drach. She is a wife, a mother, a public school teacher, and mummer, and not necessarily in that order. Her first string band was Juniata Park, that she joined when she was just 10 years old. Although she has not paraded consecutively over the years, this year was her 27th parade. So don't do the math. So don't try to figure it out, everybody at home. She is also a part of a limited group of females who have been a part of any group that has won first prize. Hello, Colleen. Tell us about yourself.
Hi.
Hey, Colleen.
There's applause. Hi. So thanks for having me on, first of all.
Sure.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so I've been, doing the string band thing a long time. I was 10 years old. My dad is from Fishtown, and he and my uncle were in Juniata Park String Band. And he was a dancer for them. And actually, my dad didn't play an instrument at the time. And when I was about 9 years old, I said, I really want to play the saxophone. So, my parents got me lessons and everything. And my dad said, you know what, maybe I'll start playing too. And if you really are serious about it and you give it a year, we can, you can come up to the string band and play. So that's how we got started. I actually started playing a little bit before my dad. And I, 10 years old, went up to the string band with him and Juniata Park. And that's where it all began for me. And I was with them for 2 years, and then the band folded. But I still have great, friendships from Juniata Park. And from there, we went to Trilby String Band, where I just continued to grow as a mummer, as a musician. And then from there, I was in Hageman String Band, where I was lucky enough to win first prize, as you had mentioned. And now I am with the Greater Kensington String Band. I took off for about 6 years. My son was little. I took off between Hageman and Kensington for about 6 years. And it was just ready for me to go back. I'm also actually a cancer survivor. I had breast cancer. So when I went back, when Connie Karwoski, who's John Winsky's sister, when she said to me, Greater Kensington's going to start taking women. You want to go? Why don't you come up? And I thought it was a great time. I had just finished my treatments and my chemo and my radiation and all that. And I thought, you know what? I need something that makes me again. You know what I mean? It reminds me of me.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll go. So here I am now, a member of Greater Kensington String Band. So that's kind of how that's like my timeline of getting involved.
That's amazing, Colleen. What a great story. I admire you so much. I mean, for being a trailblazer and powering through and really rediscovering yourself and getting back to it. That's a great story. Thank you. And I can't wait to hear a little bit more from you. Our next guest is Sandi Tait. Sandi is an experienced elementary dance teacher in the Central Jersey region. She is a highly decorated performer and instructor of the marching performance arts with various organizations such as the Bands of America Honor Band, the Raiders Drum and Bugle Corps, the Black Watch, Hawthorne Caballeros, Amp Winter Guard, the Reading Buccaneers, the Greater Kensington String Band, and I can't believe she has time for all of this, and the several independent scholastic programs. Sandi brings to the table an eclectic view of the marching and performing arts, and it's so good to have you, Sandi. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I kind of got into mummers pretty much from the time I was born. My dad was actually a mummer for 25 years with Woodland String Band.
Okay.
And he stopped marching, I think it was like 83 or 84. And it was kind of it was a way of life in our household and in our family. Several of my family members also marched, my Uncle John and also my cousin as well. So when Stephen was talking about, it's families do it, it's a way of life, like it's completely true. And on New Year's Day, like our whole family would get together. My dad would make his famous bean soup. And they would all get together and everybody would judge the string band. So you would watch everything. You'd watch the music, you'd watch, the movements, everything. And then whoever got closest to being able to judge it correctly, like, I don't know, I guess you just got like bragging rights for the year. But that was something, even up until the year that I joined, which was last year, that was something that we always did. I would print out the sheets, from PHL 17's website.
There you go.
We'd all sit there and, we would eat all day and we'd judge the string bands. And I'm just so excited to be able to do something in his honor. He passed away when I was 10. So it's really cool. Yeah. I might talk about this a little bit later too, but just like being in front of City Hall, like boom, in front of the cameras. And even like once you get done, you're like, wow, like I got to do something that he did. And, I got to be part of an organization that he loves so much. So it means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell. It's amazing the way it like transcends just being a performing art or a competitive art like we haven't even really touched much on yet, and we'll surely want to talk more about later, and really gets to even leap generations and become a familial thing that is like passed down from parent to child each year. But Sandi, we're happy to have you here. Our next guest, Lawrence Major, graduated from Westchester University in Pennsylvania in 2013, and he now lives in North Jersey. Having performed in many of the musical ensembles, including the incomparable Golden Rand Marching Band at Westchester, Lawrence continued performing after college as a player of various members of the saxophone family. 2 years ago, he saw a post on Facebook looking to join the Greater Kensington String Band, and now he has no idea why it took him so long to join. Seems like he's been having a good time. Hello, Lawrence.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy, for the invite. Where do I begin? I guess my earliest experience with any string band was this very, 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 very small local string band who wanted to base themselves off of the Philadelphia string band. Philadelphia string bands called the Sacramento String Band, which, like I said, is a very small town outside of a very small town in Northeast Pennsylvania. But I was invited to play by a friend of mine who lived out near them, and I drove about a half an hour, 35 minutes to get to these rehearsals once a week as a high school student.
Wow.
And I was probably with them for a year and a half, 2 years. I was playing baritone saxophone with them. All the music was by ear. They had no printed sheet music, so that was a good learning experience for me. In 2008, I graduated high school and went to Westchester University, where I performed in the incomparable Golden Rams Marching Band for 4 years. I haven't done that in a while. I played tenor sax in the marching band for those 4 years. And somewhere along the lines, a current member of FERCO reached out to me. I forget exactly how he got me information, but his name is Chris Halpin. He's in FERCO. He's a bass saxophone player. He reached out to me about maybe joining the band that he was in at the time, which, again, I forget. If I wasn't busy with music major undergrad work and taking 18 credits and 11 courses or whatever it was at the time, I probably would have done it at the time because that was only half an hour, 45 minutes away. And then upon graduation in 2013, I moved out to Central Jersey, not North Jersey, which is what you said. Central Jersey exists.
Big difference.
Hashtag Central Jersey exists. I'm the father of almost 5-year-old twin girls, so I had to take a couple years off of playing just to focus on balancing work and being a parent. And then in the fall of 2021, I started back up with the Raritan Valley Symphonic Band. And then 2 months later, my wife Megan sent me a screenshot of a post that Jeremy Williams made in the Westchester Alumni Band page that the Greater Kensington String Band was looking for saxophone players. And I think it was a Friday that she sent me that. And Greater Kensington's first rehearsal was on that following Sunday. We made things work. I moved things around, and I showed up for my first rehearsal that Sunday in November. I think it was November 17th, 2021. From my first year up the street, I played baritone saxophone, and now I am the bass saxophone player for Greater Kensington String Band.
Wow.
And it seems like it was a match made in heaven, I guess, ever since you found that Jeremy post.
A lot of stars had to align for it to happen.
Well, we're glad that you can be here, and we're certainly glad to have you on the podcast with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
Shop our extensive consignment inventory for great looks for your team that won't break your budget. Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
Check out our fun merchandise and gift items.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs. Contact us for custom show design services.
Clean out your storage areas and get money back into your budget with our consignment program.
Guard Closet is here to help you get all you want and need this winter season.
Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
Hey, this is Nicole, one of your hosts for On a Water Break, and I want to tell you about the Cookout. The Cookout is an event celebrating people of color in color guard. This event is happening in Dayton, Ohio, April 16th, the day after WGI Finals at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel, aka headquarters. There will be presenters and speakers, networking opportunities, food, and more. To get more information on how to get your tickets to go to the Cookout, visit marchingcookout.com or visit our Instagram, it's the Cookout CG, or our Facebook page, the Cookout. We can't wait to see you there.
Colleen, could you maybe walk us through what competition day is like? Last week, we got to hear a lot from John about basically everything that leads up to the competition. Tell us what it's like as a performer actually getting out there in front of City Hall.
So it's funny because I always joke with my husband because every New Year's morning, I guess about 4 a.m, 3:30 in the morning, we wake up. And, I'm exhausted because you have 3.5 hour, 4 hour sleep. And I look at him and I go, what? Why do we do this? Why?
I said the same exact thing this year.
Why? But,
Colleen, I woke up at 2:30 this year.
Did you? Oh. That's because that solo, it was on your mind, wasn't it, buddy?
That and I had to drive an hour to get there.
Yeah, right. But you know what? From the time we get up, we get out, and get out the door and we arrive at the club. The day always starts off great because as soon as you walk into the club, you walk in with the 60 people that you've worked so hard for, right? Or so hard with all year long. So you walk in and it's just a great feeling to walk in with your string band family, and, and there's nerves, you're a little bit nervous. And,
oh, yeah.
You're getting ready to, you have the makeup to put on and, you have your suit you have to get on. And I always, love this year, I think Sean gave a little speech beforehand or somebody said thank you. I think when we were upstairs, getting dressed, somebody said something. And I always love that because it's when your leaders give you that first, really encouraging, go get them. We can do this. We're going to have a great day. It's awesome, right? It's just a great feeling. Then when we get to Broad Street, it's funny because I have an experience of Broad Street actually walking up Broad Street. And now I have the experience of just getting to Broad Street to practice. We practice.
So did the parade route used to run in reverse compared to what it does today?
Yeah. So we used to start down South Philly. I guess it was around, I feel like a lot of times we were maybe around the Broad and Bigler area. It's been so long, I forget. I think maybe we did the routine the first time we did it might have been Broad and Shunk. It was okay. Broad and Shunk was the first or second time. And what you would do is you would practice all the way up and you had practice spots. So when we did it that way, what was a cool feeling about doing that was, when you did your routine for the first time, and I remember at the end, we would stop and you would hear the crowd. And if the crowd kind of went wild, you were like, oh, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
We're
and I'm
be
sure
good.
as you get closer and closer down towards City Hall, the crowd is getting bigger and bigger each time.
And you got better and better each time. I always said, the year that we actually won, it was comical because in the morning, we had so many problems in the morning, with drill and we had so many issues. And I'll never forget, that was the year it was on Market Street. Because there was something going on. I forget what it was, but they had to have it on Market. And the first time we did the routine, when we finally got there to do it for the people, it was it clicked. And we all looked at each other did this just happen? Are we good? Did we sound good? Oh my gosh. It worked. And then up the street, it was we got better and better and better and peaked at City Hall. It was that, and it was a really awesome moment. So, I have that experience and the day, being exciting that way. And now, this way, it's just different. It's still exciting. Like even when, I think we had, maybe Jeremy, we got there and it was the first time we all practiced, together, and we did it. And I stopped, I think it was John Witzke I may have even looked at, and I said, oh, I think things worked out pretty good. There's a couple things we got to work out, but I think it's going to work, and it was like I had a really good feeling. So like from a competitive standpoint too, when you do it the first time and you have that feeling of, oh wow, like we sound good, we look good, we have to work a few things out, but that was overall really good. It's like, yes, we're going to have a good day. It's going to be a good day. And,
oh yeah.
And I am pretty competitive, actually. I'm a very competitive person. I mean, I'm nice within the competition.
A good sport.
I'm a good
but
sport.
You're a competitor.
I'm a nice winner. I'm a nice loser. But I am competitive and I want to do well. So yeah, when you have that feeling, it's a great feeling. And even this New Year's Day, I knew, I was like, you know what, we're going to move up, and we did, because it was just everything clicked. And it was just little things that had to be, worked out, but it clicked. And even after, when you get your results, part of that day, when you get your results, or you're waiting for your results, again, you're doing it with your string band family. And there's this anxiousness, you're anxious. See, back in the day, there used to be a phone at the club that actually rang. So if the phone rang, everybody'd be like, shh, shh, quiet, the phone rang.
Yeah, the drama of that moment.
Yeah, and then it'd be like, oh, so-and-so, your wife's on the phone. Why is she calling here? Or your husband or somebody, and then it would ring again. And you had that, but now, I mean, it's still an anxious feeling, but, it's different, but you're still like anxious and you're all waiting together. And this year when we did get our prize, I mean, it was like we moved up. I knew we sounded good. I knew we looked good. And it was just a proud moment. It was a very proud moment to be together with, like Sandi and Lawrence and all the rest of the band members. And those, a lot of those kids, when they joined Greater Kensington, I think they've gotten maybe like a 13th or a 14th or 15th, something like that. So they, this band is up, coming back, and they cheer like they got top 3. And I just think it's awesome, because it's that perspective. It's perspective, right? Like sure. How appreciative they are, how appreciative this band is to just work hard and move up.
That just shows how how exciting it is and how fulfilling it is. All that hard work, and it's not always about getting first. It's about the experience that you had that day and how well you did, and that's awesome.
Let's get a bit further into what that experience is like, and maybe even how it compares and contrasts to a regular, more typical marching band or drum corps experience. Sandi, would you be able to tell us a bit more about sort of what's different for you, even as a performer, what you wear?
Definitely. So I could even compare and contrast a little bit from last year. So last year's costume, I would say, would be even more of like a traditional, like color guard type of costume that I would wear. It was a little bit tighter, not the feathers and all the flashiness necessarily that you would see on a more traditional mum costume. Whereas this year I actually got to wear something that would be more traditional, and it kind of added to the experience. I was like, whoa, look at me. Like I felt like I upgraded. And even my one friend, Renee, who we've marched together now for 2 years at Greater Kensington, I was like, Renee, you just look so much like a mummer. Like, the feathers and all the jewels that get put onto the costume, and that makes it an interesting experience too, because her and I are both used to wearing something that's, a little bit tighter, more form-fitted, and then to put on almost like a super suit, you have to kind of figure out how to do all your moves in that too. So that kind of adds like a whole other element to it as well.
Right. That makes sense. Something I didn't even really realize, the scoring and how all of this gets judged is very different. And costuming in and of itself is such a tremendous portion of the score. So these costumes, they're pretty different just in how they feel. Are they like restrictive to how you move compared to more typical, like the spandexy sort of uniforms you'd be used to in color guard?
I wouldn't necessarily say more restrictive, but I don't know. I think each one, each year, like how the costume fits, like kind of alters your movement a little bit, even when you're in drum corps, marching band, anything like that. So it's just kind of figuring out like, okay, how do I do this move in this costume in order to look the best and present myself the best for the show?
Right. That makes sense. And I feel like you're right that every year you kind of run into those sort of situations, whether it's a band uniform or a mummer uniform. Lawrence, could you compare maybe just what those band uniforms are more typically like for you compared to a mummer's uniform and how that's different?
So there was a pretty wide gap in time between me wearing a marching band uniform and being in the mummer's parade and wearing a big sequiny costume.
Right.
So my first year up the street with Greater Kensington, I know the suits that we had were secondhand from either a wench or a comics brigade. I forget exactly which one.
I think it was one of the brigades. They did Wizards.
Yeah. And it was here, pick one of these robes and pick one of these hats that fit. And they weren't really designed for, at least for me, they weren't very great for playing a large saxophone because it wasn't flowy, but it was wide. It came off my body a lot. And when you keep that big of an instrument close to your body and the more moving parts in it, sometimes you get some sequins or a stray something in between some of the keys on the instrument. But this year, all of the costumes were measured per person. And I really enjoyed how my Monopoly costume fit this year.
They looked amazing. Yeah, I loved them, especially Sean's captain costume. I thought he looked incredible.
I couldn't get over that one. It was like I got to the club and we were getting dressed and it was maybe 6 a.m. and I took a picture of the captain's costume on the hanger and I sent it to my wife at 6 a.m. She wasn't even awake yet. I'm like, I can't get over this thing. It's so great. But like I said, I really enjoyed how it fit this year, and definitely compared to last year, the hat was smaller, which I didn't really like the like big giant red witch hat that I had last year. It was clumsy, but the hat was a lot better this year, and just the way it fit, all the feathers and the sequins, and I really felt like I was more a mummer this year than I was last year. Solely because of the costume.
Well, they say you should dress for the job you want. So
right.
There you go. You did. Colleen, so maybe, you've had a lot of experience. What's maybe one of the most outlandish or crazy or extravagant costumes that maybe you've worn over the years that you can remember, or biggest or most cumbersome? What are some of your favorite memories of that?
So one year in particular, we did a Greek theme. I was in Hageman. John Barron was captain actually that year, and we did a Greek theme. And I was half man, half horse.
Wow.
And literally, we had like the horse's backside coming, the legs, and that was probably one of the craziest. But it was really kind of funny too because I had little kids coming up wanting to take pictures, trying to pet, the backside. Like it was really cute. It was didn't look like myself at all. I was half man, half. I had a mustache. Well, I feel like I always have a mustache on New Year's Day anymore. But
you should just start growing it year round.
So that, right.
They made me shave my mustache to put on a fake one this year.
To put on a new one. I know. Especially you do that, don't you, Lawrence? Like,
yeah, I you kind of grow a handlebar mustache.
Yeah, so that was kind of goofy, but so that was definitely the craziest probably costume. And then a couple years, when you're in a band, co-ed band, and especially in Hageman, I feel like they really utilized the co-ed, being co-ed a lot. So like one year we did a USO theme, and we had like Andrew's sister dresses on. Well, it was so cold that year. It was 1999. I'll never forget it. It was so cold that year. We were freezing, and they were paper thin, and It was like, that was crazy. So we've definitely had costumes that, you know, you were freezing, or one year we had suits. It was like 60 some degrees, kind of like it is this year. In fact, it might have even been a little warmer. And we were animals. And so I was lucky because I was a bunny. So I wasn't as hot as some other people. But like my husband, he was a lion, and he had black makeup on. It didn't even look like the whiskers and all were black. It was like smeared all over his face by the end of the day, you know, because it was so hot. So we've had some pretty unique costumes and crazy costumes and frozen, you know, all that good stuff over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like these costumes have been like evolving continuously for years now.
Yeah.
Can any of you guys give perspective, I guess, maybe from what it used to be like to what it's like today?
I think from a viewer's perspective, they've changed a lot too. Like even from like 20, 30 years ago, I mean, they used to be these super tall, really large back pieces with an enormous amount of feathers on it. And obviously that gets really expensive. And it's almost kind of forced a restructuring of sorts for the costumes. So they've had to evolve just based on, you know, price, but also as the activity changes too. So what was really cool about this year was we almost had a old and a new twist on that costume. You have the new twist with like the feathers at the shoulders and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then you also had these really cool little back pieces that were placed on everybody as well. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I got a little bit of the old flair and the new flair. It was really cool.
Yeah, and that's what makes things cool, I guess, is like evolving and keeping the traditions over time, but also finding ways to keep it fresh and exciting.
Somebody asked me to watch the last time Greater Kensington got first prize, which I believe was 88. Their theme was Go for Baroque, and it was a much different show than it is today. And those costumes were huge, and they had, 60, 65 members all wearing these massive back pieces.
And heavy, really heavy.
I'd imagine.
But that's got to weigh on your on your cardio, because like if you're pulling that kind of weight and you're trying to blow air through a horn, that's going to shift your whole performance aspect as a wind player, I'm sure. I mean, as everybody, but I would think the winds in particular would have that struggle.
Yeah, I wore one. When I was in Trilby, I was 12 years old, 12 or 13, and we did shoes. We had a shoe theme. We were a shoe theme. And I had a back piece. They didn't care I was 12. I had a full-on back piece, like every other, like the perimeter of the band had the back pieces, and but they were just like, well, so you have to wear. I'm like, I'm 12, man. Come on, this thing is heavy, But
I think costumes was an even larger percentage of the score back then, if I understand correctly. But let's change subjects a little bit. Lawrence and Sandi, since you have so much other experience in other sides of the marching arts activity, how does your mummers experience compare towards other marching arts experiences that you may have had?
So in high school, my high school only competed one time in the 4 years that I did it. We were a more traditional marching band, meaning that we still high-stepped. So we only competed one time at, I forget what the name of the show was, but it was in Boyertown, Pennsylvania in the fall of 2004. And then I never competed again until 2022 with Greater Kensington.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's such a big gap in time there, I guess.
Yeah. And even when I was in high school, I didn't even grasp the concept of competitive marching band because I had only been in it for 2 months.
I have quite a bit of experience high stepping from my time in Penn State's Blue Band, and I can at least speak to me doing it with a bass drum that it was enormously labor intensive. It's one of the least efficient ways that you can get around.
I
don't know who came up with that one.
Especially with a bass drum.
Oh yeah. It really doesn't work, honestly. I don't know why we do it, but Sandi, what about how your experience compares from maybe a drum corps or a color guard perspective to a mummers band?
I think for me, doing the mummers is kind of more about like the experience of getting to do something like my dad did and being close to him in a way. He passed away when I was 10, so it's still like a way for me to connect with him through the arts, and something that he loves so much and now is a part of, my life as well. So I think for me, it's more about my heart and my feelings, and,
Right.
Everything kind of symbolizes something different for me. Like, I love drum corps. I get to be there with my friends, and get better at spinning and my craft and, all that kind of stuff. So for this, it's more about, I guess, camaraderie and family and, kind of that legacy feel like you had talked about before.
Right, yeah. So that makes sense to me, I guess, because drum corps, people can do it, especially in all age circuits like DCA, for years and years. But I felt more of a family generational sort of thing going on when I was there with GK. It seemed like people had spent decades, which is not something that I was used to coming from the drum corps world.
I mean, you definitely have your connections in drum corps, and like, it's the same type of thing, you're all together, you're all getting better. You're all trying to put on this awesome show. But I think it's just the difference for me is like, when I go to drum corps, like, I'm actively trying to get better at my, how I spin my flag, how I'm marching, how I'm dancing, and whereas at the mummers, like, I'm enjoying the camaraderie, the showmanship, I feel like, is also very high as well. Like, it's about putting on a good show for your fans and, a good show for the people that are watching at home. But then also, like, your friends, a lot of my friends also came to the string bands as well. Like, I got to spin with Renee and Bobby Biddle pulled me in, and, obviously I know Jeremy as well. So, like, it was cool how those two worlds collided and came together. So I got to represent my family, but then I also got to pull in a little bit of that drum corps world too.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's interesting too how the audiences are slightly different in that in a drum corps and marching band world, you're usually performing for other drum corps and marching band people. But in the mummers space, being at a parade, this is the whole city of Philadelphia loves it and comes together to watch it. So plenty of people are really into the details and they know what's going on. You have just as many people just having a good time on Broad Street and they want to see and enjoy it. So I always think that's really interesting.
It really is. And I think it's hard because if you're familiar with the mummers and you're familiar with DCI, it is almost like, wow, can they mesh? Can they blend? But yet, Sandi just explained, absolutely they can. And the similarities are more than we maybe would have thought of without looking into it a little bit more. I think I have a good question for Colleen. I'm really curious to hear your opinion on this and your answer for this. But what if somebody like from another planet landed, what would you want them to know about the mummers? Like if they knew nothing about it, no preconceived notions, no nothing, what would you tell them? How would you describe it?
I think I would describe it as a celebration. Obviously one that we do New Year's Day, and for a lot of us, I think it's a celebration of family, of tradition. It's a celebration of coming together with your string band family, working hard all year long. I would say 90%, maybe 95% of my relationships with my family and my friends are because I was involved in string band. I met my husband because of it, where we met through string band. My best friends met through string band. So I think, obviously, I think if they just said, well, what is it like? Like, what's the parade like? The best way I think to sometimes describe it is like almost like a Mardi Gras feel, right? Like on a lesser scale, like a Mardi Gras feel as far as the costumes and the music and the celebration of New Year's Day. But then there's the celebration, of you're doing this with your family. Like when my dad and I have not paraded since 2006 together. But every year that we did parade together from 1988 until 2006, he would, right before the judges stand, we'd get to the line, you'd see the lights hitting you, and he'd walk over and he'd say, good luck, you ready? I'd say, yeah, I'm ready. And he'd give me a kiss, good luck on the cheek, until this day, like sometimes I get choked up if I talk about it because, I think about that when every single year, and my dad had has some health issues, and he may be able to get back into it. I think he's getting a little bit of an itch, but he has to check with his doctors and stuff first. But, that's something that is it's emotional for me every single year when I see those lights and I hit that line, and I just think like, all right, Dad, here we go in my mind, and then he's the first person I call when we're done. I'm like, did you watch it? How were we? Yeah, of course, this year he said, no, I didn't see it. They technical difficulties. That was something. But every year, it's like, well, how'd we do? What do you think? What prize? And he's always, gives me the lowdown and tells me. So, I think that's what I would really tell someone is, yes, it's a celebration. It's fun. We come together. We have Lord knows we have a good party, but it's also, like I said, I was blessed because I wouldn't have the life that I have, and I have a very nice life. I wouldn't have the life I have without being a part of a string band because that's where I met my people. So I love it, and I feel like I'm blessed to have it and to have all those people, that are in my life because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of our listeners will be able to relate to that notion of like the best people we've met in life. Many of them are people that we met through band, and a lot of our closest friends, for many of us, it's all because of this activity that brought us together.
Absolutely.
So it's great to see that kind of crosses over, whether it's mummers, marching band, color guard, or any of these sort of performance arts. It's all coming back to that same friends and family at its core.
That's how I met my wife.
That's how Colleen met her wife.
That's how I met my husband.
There you go.
Oh my.
Drum corps.
I think that most of us would probably end up feeling the same way. Certainly sounds like, at least amongst the couple of us in this call, that's where we've met some of the people we care about the most. But I'd like to go around the room here and just hear about one significant, special, like standout memory you have from all of your time, all your years. Just one good story that comes to mind from your time in the Mummers. Would you want to get us started, Sandi?
I have two funny ones. Well, actually, yeah, I guess they're both funny. So last year was my first year, and we had this really crazy costume change that we had to do between songs. And, we all have what we call our marshals. So they're the people that help you, whatever you need in the back, or they might be moving props, or, they're just kind of like an all hands on deck kind of person to do whatever you need. So my husband's back there, and he's got my second costume, and you had to take your shoes off, put this costume on, put your shoes back on. And it was wet that day because it had rained, and I could barely get my foot through the bottom. And I was like, rip it, just rip it. And this is for the, for the big show, for the cameras. And luckily I was able to get out there, but we were all having a crazy time trying to get the second costume on. But I thought that was funny. I regaled that this year on New Year's Day. And then another crazy scenario, we were just about to push up to, I guess, our last practice before we go on for the big show. And one of the props broke. So my husband, we're doing a run through, and in the middle of this run through, I'm running past the prop, and my husband's underneath of it with a drill, drilling all these nails into the props so we could get the leg back on. And I was just like, man, if this just isn't a mummer experience right now, I don't know what is.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's definitely, you just got to get scrappy on the day of and make it happen. And without people like your husband, I don't know that it would come together.
It makes the best memories.
It surely does. Lawrence, what would you like to share?
All right, I'm going to have to cram a couple in. So I think the first most poignant one was, and I'm going to speak for Tony Delacqua, who was supposed to be on this call, but while we were in the judging area for New Year's Day 2022, his phone was vibrating nonstop in his pocket. It turned out, when we got out of the judging area, one of his children had a kid.
Oh,
and he received the news that he was a grandfather in the judging area, but we were performing, so he couldn't do that. So he couldn't get it. I forget who it was, and I forget everything, but it was really funny that he comes out and he said, "I'm a grandfather."
That's a big day.
That's awesome.
For myself, I really enjoyed 4th of July this past year because GK did a split band A bunch of people went up to Massachusetts to do a parade up there, and a lot of us stayed back home and did a couple parades locally. And we were going, whoever it was, I think it was Baron and Harry or Kapchak, they were going back and forth posting on the public Greater Kensington Facebook page, which band was better as we finished a parade. So we get the band in Massachusetts finishing something, and they're like, gold band rules or something like that. And then the local band posted a group selfie of doing everything that we did. So that was really big fun. Taking jabs at each other, just poking fun. Who's better. I really enjoyed. Unfortunately, one of the oldest members of Greater Kensington passed away this year, Bob Lightfoot, and a lot of us went down to his funeral in South Jersey. And we all played his favorite tunes. There was a lot of different members from other string bands there to pay their respects and play along with us. I think there was... Colleen, were you there? I forget.
I was working because it was during the day, but I saw in the video, I think there was members of Furco and...
Yeah, there was Furco, Freilinger.
Freilinger was there because his son's in Freilinger.
Yeah. And it was probably 60, 70 musicians crammed into this funeral hall playing music for Bob. And I thought that was really special for everybody.
It sounds like in one way it's still that same camaraderie, that same aspect of family that we just keep building upon. It just shows that even at the end of Bob's life, it was still there, and everyone showed their support for him and for his family on that day, which is a great thing. Colleen, what would you like to share?
I kind of have two too. One is from last year as well. So we also went. So we had these black robes on. Over top of our witch costume, which was just a robe, a sequin robe, and there was Velcro, on the witch costume, and there was Velcro. I think it was Velcro on the robe too. So when we had to get change that robe off really, really quickly. We had to get that robe off and put our hat on and do a quick change. So I go back and I'm unvelcroing myself a little bit to get a head start, before we get back to where we have to get back to because it's so quick. And all of a sudden, I feel I'm like, it's a little cold. Well, my costume fell off. It fell off me. The whole robe fell off. I did have black pants and my black turtleneck on, but my suit never has fallen off me in front of the judges or anywhere for that matter in 27 years. So I look at it at, I think the marshal that was helping me was Stacy, and she looked at me and I go, it fell off. My suit fell off. And this is all in like 10 seconds, and she goes, oh my God. And I said, I know, just throw my hat on me. Just throw my hat on me. And I picked my suit up and I don't know how I did it, but I got out and I got there and I walked out and it looked like nothing happened. But I'm like, that was the craziest moment in front of the judges for me, my suit falling off. And then another memory I have is I'll never forget the day that we actually won, that I was lucky enough to win first prize. Because I will never forget, we're all at the club, we're waiting for the results, we're waiting for the phone to ring, because that's what you did. And, Johnny Pignotti was our captain then, and he said, we won first. And they said, we swept the parade, and because he won first. And I will never forget, it sounded like there were two lions in each ear, like the roar of the members. And it was unbelievable. And then everybody was it was such a victory. It was like, I guess like winning the Super Bowl in a way, only we don't get the millions to come with it, but, but it was an awesome moment that I'll never forget. I'll never forget the sound of the cheer and the roar. And if we all got our instruments. If we played that routine once that night, we played it 500 times. I was like, I never want to play this again, but it was just a great memory. It was really fun. And it was a really good memory of just, being happy and being lucky enough, like my husband, 30 some years, and he still hasn't won, but I have a first prize. So,
do you hold that over his head?
Not too much. Not too much,
Colleen,
you got to save that, Carrie. You got to save that.
Blue moon,
What year was that, Colleen? Just for my reference.
That was in 95 that I won. And Hageman also won. In fact, the first year with women was 1992. They won that year. And then they won. Then we won again in 1995. So
seems to be a sign.
Year they had women?
They won the first year they had women. Yep. And and Hageman's the only band to win with women. They're the only string band to win with women. So it's a pretty proud. I feel like it's a very proud moment for me. Being one of the only females to be lucky enough to get that first prize.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it's certainly a unique experience for you to have had. And speaking to like how you said the clubhouse was just insane when you guys won, I felt like our clubhouse was insane coming in 8th. So like, I think that
Oh yeah.
I can't even imagine what it would have been like in there. It would have been absolutely electric.
Oh, it was chaotic. It was chaotic.
And then I'm sure the rest of the night was even more chaotic after
Oh
that.
yeah. One of our members, he was like an older guy, and I remember like he was in the bathroom, and I guess the floor, because we were on the second floor, so the floor was kind of shaking a little bit. He came out, he goes, "I'm going home." And he left. He went home.
That's amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great story. I was so happy to hear all your experiences. I know how much this means to all you guys. So, Beth, I think we got a game that we want to play with our guests today. Let's talk about it. Well, Colleen, thank you for sharing all of that with us. It was just, I think it's incredible getting to hear how much all of these stories just show how much all of you care about your mummers' experiences and what a significant impact it made in all of your lives. Beth, I'm sure you'd agree it was pretty interesting getting to hear what everyone had to say.
You know, as probably the only person that we've been chatting with right now that has not participated in a mummers parade in a musical sense and a parade sense, you know, like I kind of said before, it's really interesting hearing the behind the scenes. It's like we're in Oz and you pulled back the curtain and now I see a little bit of magic that's happening, you know, and it's really, it's impactful. And the tradition in this city is ridiculous. I mean, you can't go anywhere in this area without, you know, and find somebody who doesn't know what the mummers is. And to hear your stories, you've just made it so much more relatable for a lot of people. We all admire it and we all respect it. And I think a lot of our viewers and listeners will be able to do the same thing now. So Stephen, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk to these fine people today and learn a little bit more about the mummers.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking from my own experience, you actually don't want to see behind the curtain of Oz as to what's going on behind the props. You don't want to know. Listen to me. Stay on the other side.
It'll be like seeing, it's you know, it's like seeing the person drilling the set back together.
Yeah, they're better not seeing that part. But I agree. It was cool getting to hear what goes on for each of these performers. Why don't we go around one more time? We could start with Lawrence, I guess, and just give quick final thoughts that you have on what mummers has meant to you, if you were to sum it up briefly.
Well, I've played saxophone longer than I haven't played saxophone in my life. And I think if you live anywhere remotely close to Philadelphia, I drive an hour and 15 minutes one way, 2, sometimes 3 times a week to participate in this band. And I'm only a year and change into it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm having way too much fun. The band is great. There's not a lot of people I know outside in the mummers community outside of Greater Kensington that I know, but those that I do know are very gracious people and really enjoy sharing this tradition with as many people as possible, whether they want to listen or not. But I've had so much fun, and it's been, as a musician, it's, you know, it hasn't been the most challenging music I've played. It hasn't been the most challenging marching I've done, but it's definitely the most fun I've had doing both.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like I can tell, feeling the vibe from the ensemble, that everyone's just having a great time all the time. Sandi, what do you think?
I think the mummers, it's more than just an organization. It's more than just, you know, people coming together to play music. It's honestly like a way of life, and it's a legacy. There's a lot of history there. And I know from my family, it means a lot. And for the people that are in it, it's everything. So I definitely encourage, if anybody's interested, to join. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way for me to be able to express myself and to just enjoy being around other people that, you know, like the activity as well. Yeah, I definitely felt the same way, that being around that group, I could tell that everybody, you were able to just be yourself in that ensemble, and everyone wanted to get to meet everyone and know them for who they are. Which is, it's a great thing. Not a lot of social groups outside of the band world are necessarily like that.
Nope.
So thanks for sharing. Colleen, want to wrap us up?
Sure. Yeah. Again, it means to me, like I said before, really family, tradition, and blessings. You know, I feel like I truly have been blessed in every band I've been in. I've been blessed. I have, you know, so many people that mean so much to me because of it. And I have to say, you know, Greater Kensington String Band, it's wonderful. I mean, it really is a wonderful organization. The people are so nice. They're welcoming. You know, they were so welcoming, especially, being one of the first, I guess, the first of maybe 1, 2, or 3 women to go up to Greater Kensington and play and join. And they've been so kind and sweet and welcoming and appreciative and genuine. And I think that's what I love too, the how genuine they are. So, if anybody wants to come on down to Cotman and Edmond, feel free to come play with us. I really think, anybody would be really happy to be a part of this organization. I mean, it's great. Like Lawrence kind of summed it up too. It's just, they're great people.
I mean, and that's a perfect way to kind of wrap it up. They're great people. And I think anybody that participates in a marching activity, we realize very quickly as you reach out and branch out that it's band music is a big family. And kids and people and marchers are the same, whether you're in Des Moines or Delaware or Philly or California. It doesn't matter because it transcends geography, it transcends ages, it transcends so many things that we all just want to be part of it. And we just want to enjoy music and the camaraderie and the family. And it sounds like the Mummers, from all of your stories today, the Mummers are really the place to find all of those things. All of those boxes can be checked. And the commitment, like Lawrence drives a distance to be part of it. And that's a testament to what's going on in those clubhouses and then obviously on parade day. So I want to just take a moment on behalf of our podcast to thank each of you, Lawrence and Colleen and Sandi, for joining us today. It has been delightful hearing your stories and all of the information you shared. And I know our listeners have a much better understanding of what the Mummers means. And I
sure do.
Right. And you were part of it, Stephen.
Briefly, yeah, but I'll be back next year. I can't wait to be back.
Yes. All right, Stephen.
See? And that's the other thing. People keep coming back. That's another testament to the activity. So thank you all for joining us today. And let's throw it back to Jackie and everyone else for some news so we can wrap up this rehearsal.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
Shop our extensive consignment inventory for great looks for your team that won't break your budget. Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
Check out our fun merchandise and gift items.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs. Contact us for custom show design services.
Clean out your storage areas and get money back into your budget with our consignment program.
Guard Closet is here to help you get all you want and need this winter season.
Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
Hey, this is Nicole, one of your hosts for On a Water Break, and I want to tell you about the Cookout. The Cookout is an event celebrating people of color in Color Guard. This event is happening in Dayton, Ohio, April 16th, the day after WGI Finals at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel, aka headquarters. There will be presenters and speakers, networking opportunities, food, and more. To get more information on how to get your tickets to go to the Cookout, visit marchingcookout.com or visit our Instagram, it's the Cookout CG, or our Facebook page, The Cookout. We can't wait to see you there.
I love that no matter what marching arts activity, it all comes back to entertaining a crowd and family. It's very nice to hear about the amazing family legacies in any activity. Anyways, it's time for our new segment, Wisdom from Whitney. Our host, Whitney, has been there and done that when it comes to teaching color guard. So who better to give us a little bit of inspiration or just plain truth? Take it away, Whitney.
Today's wisdom is just about going with the flow. I know down here in Texas, a large portion of Texas is dealing with the end of a pretty bad ice storm. And for us, we did not have any class, rehearsal, anything from Tuesday through Friday, and are currently waiting to see what is going to happen with Saturday, and if we're allowed to go to a competition, if it's even going to happen, if the school can even be open. So we're just kind of all waiting to see what the verdict will be. And I think it's really just like a test of patience. We have to wait for other people to assess and make decisions, but we also have to be problem solving and laying out options for what we can potentially do. But I think it's just important to remember that we're all going through this right now, at least down here, and we're all in the same boat. And we've all lost a lot of rehearsal this week. So just remember that you're not the only director or instructor or member that's dealing with this right now. There are thousands of people that are going through the same thing, and not just color guard, but I know all of the competitive sports teams and clubs are all dealing with this loss of time. So just remember to stay focused on what you can control, and don't let the worry of being behind keep you from getting better when you do get to have rehearsal again. Just remind yourself that plenty of programs are dealing with this, so it's going to be okay. And the biggest thing I think we learned from 2020 was to not take the season for granted, and to really just go at every week with guns a-blazing, for lack of a better term, and really just have great rehearsals and great shows every single chance that you can.
Thanks, Whitney. There is something to be said about winter guard and winter percussion being in the winter and having to deal with the winter. Can anyone work this out for us? How do you all deal with missing rehearsals for any circumstance?
Being from New England, weather always was a factor in the winter season. Like, some rehearsals, we got to rehearsal, and then the kids had to stay extra hours because it wasn't safe to go home. That's happened to us in the past. It's tough to figure out.
I've always lived, so geographically, I've always lived in places that experienced all of the seasons. So anytime that we had, like, it snowed or whatever, it's just like, okay, kids were just used to, all right, we're canceling, and then I would throw something at them that would make them at least think about the show. Like, hey, we're not having rehearsal, but I want you to, like, I'd chunk out the show. Tell me something about this chunk of the show. But, I lived in Texas too. And the first couple of years there, it was just like, oh, snow, that doesn't make sense. And, in the last couple of years, it's been a thing, and icing and stuff like that. So it's just, it's a pain. It's a pain for everyone to have to deal with.
The ice is a huge factor for us.
Ice is a huge factor.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, I know we all go through it, but it's just like, as far as that goes, and it's just like, where can you tack on another rehearsal? That's the hard part. Like, where can you tack on another rehearsal? Can you tack on another rehearsal? A lot of these kids will go through their, will go through their calendars, and it's just like, okay, I have this one weekend free this month.
Yeah, tacking on another rehearsal, chances of getting the full ensemble is slim to none, and you always want to stay true to your schedule anyways. You don't want to, surprise the parents with an extra rehearsal, even though it's needed and it happens, but.
I know a lot of circuits have, like, a policy of, if they have to cancel a show, they don't do a makeup show. Like, we cancel a show, you're done. You don't get, like, you can go to a different show. Maybe you can add a different show into your schedule, but they're not creating another show weekend.
Yeah. No, I've heard of that.
Well, I think our resident band parent may be able to calm us all down about this. Take it away, Cindy.
Hello again, my band friends. Leander Mama here with another Mama Minute. Have you looked outside this week? For most of you, you may have actually had winter this week. And that may mean snow, it may mean ice, it could mean Tree-mageddon like they're having in Austin. But regardless of the reason, a good number of you have missed a lot of school this week, and of course that means you've missed rehearsal time. Does that mean it's time to panic and just give up? Do you just throw in the towel and say, well, it's hopeless, why try? Or do you use opportunities like this? And parents, what can you do when there are times like this that are out of your control? I know you want your kids in school, and I know you want them rehearsing. You want them to be the best they can be. But first of all, kids and parents alike, now is not the time to panic. Even if you're attending a competition soon, like maybe this weekend, and you know that you're not as well prepared as you'd like to be, you have to remember that everyone attending that same competition is pretty much in the same boat that you are. No one else in your area is rehearsing either. So it's time to put aside those fears that you might be having, that you can't possibly compete this weekend because your group is so unprepared. And parents, keep reminding your guard student of that. Once you realize that things like this are out of your control, you can start focusing on what is in your control. Things like perfecting those tosses that you've been struggling with. That would be a great place to start. Or maybe you should learn a new skill that you've always wanted to learn. I see a lot of videos on Instagram of girls and guys working on those 7s and 8s maybe that they've been wanting to try, or they want to learn how to do a new toss and spin around underneath it and do a somersault. Regardless, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't have your equipment with you, you can work on body movement and dance. I also heard from some students that are mentally going through their show in their head, doing every movement in their mind over and over. Heck, pick up a broom and spin it. There's a lot of things you can still do, and just because you haven't had a chance to rehearse much, if at all, this week, it doesn't immediately spell disaster for your guard. Weather's canceled activities before, and it will again. Heck, just ask those Houston area kids what it's like trying to catch up during marching season when they have hurricanes to deal with, and more recently, a tornado. The fact is, there will always be something that could prevent you from being your absolute best. It's what you choose to do in those circumstances that will help you determine how successful you're going to be. Now get out there, you guys. Do the best that you can, and just remember everyone else is struggling too. Now I can't wait to see what you guys have been working on, and I know that every parent in those stands feels the exact same way. We are so proud of you. Well, that's it for today's Mama Minute. Be sure and catch me on Instagram at Leander Mama, and I will talk to you guys again soon.
Okay, now I feel better. Make sure you follow Cindy at Leander Mama. Her Winter Guard clips are the best. She's coming to WGI this year, I hear. Well, it's now the time of rehearsal where we do our gush and goes. This is the time where our hosts get to gush and go on about anything they want to, having to do with the marching arts. Let's start off with you, Thom.
Okay. Gush, gush, gush. I've always been a Troopers fan since I was a little kid, and seeing like that little minute clip of the Troopers from their last camp, ooh, I'm all excited. And then, you know, my sadness is Tom Brady has officially retired from football. I know it's not band related, but
it's on a marching band field, right?
Absolutely. You
take
the stages are the same. It's sports ball and yeah. Well, I'm gonna gush and go about my season actually kicking off this weekend. I'm gonna be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, judging. And so this is my first show of the season, and I'm super excited about it. I love getting in that space and in that atmosphere and being around all those people. It's just good.
Now, there is a lot of news happening this week, so let's get right to it. Nicole.
Disneyland has this tradition for more than a half a century, and it's brought around the sounds of like trumpets, saxophones, drums, marching down Main Street, USA, and it's come to a sudden stop because of the abrupt cancellation of a beloved college music program. The Disneyland All-American College Band program had been put on by Anaheim in the Anaheim theme park for more than 50 years. And they'll be gone on an indefinite hiatus, according to a bunch of social media. And this was all put out on January 27th. Then, update on January 29th is that they announced that the All-American Band program will be restarted. And a project team has been established just to help with the relaunch. So no restart date has been announced with the program yet, but it is coming back. So I know a lot of people will be super excited about that.
I'm excited about it.
That was cool. So, yeah, let's talk about sports over being in the band, or being in the band and versus sports. A lot of kids try to budget both in their life. Not always the easiest thing to do. Unfortunately, I think a lot of kids end up having to choose one or the other in most programs, I think. And one young student in New Jersey who grew up playing baseball decided to change and play the drums in the high school marching band his freshman year. And he went on to write a story about how it was far more challenging to play in the marching band than it was to be in baseball, and how he really thinks it should be considered a sport. Yeah.
What? Who would have thunk it? I'm doing some sporty stuff.
It's just marching band in drum corps. It's one of those activities that look so easy because of how well and trained kids are and perform. So it just looks like something everybody can do. And then, you finally try to do it and you're like, wow, this is insanely hard.
This is real hard.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know if you remember this, but they put all of those little like electrodes things so that can, record the heart and everything like that. And I remember because every time it comes up on my newsfeed on social media, I watch it. But it said something about how like this guy, the way that it was monitoring his heart, it was like he ran a marathon. Or
that was Dave Reeves and Star, 1993. They said like within 5 minutes of the show, he was already at a top marathon running rate. 5 minutes.
I believe it. I totally believe it.
And I remember, like, even when I was marching, they did it again in the early 2000s, and it was like they did somebody from the Cavaliers, and same thing. They did it on ESPN, on the big ESPN special, and they did all this measuring, and they were like, I think one of the big things though about marching band over regular team sports is that when you have marching band, you have to rely on every single member to do their part, period. Like if you have basketball team, like a basketball team is 5 players on the floor at the same time. You don't have the whole team out there ever. You have 5 players on the floor. And if you have players who aren't as strong, you can bench them. When you're in color guard, you cannot bench a team member.
What's a bench?
Exactly. What's a bench? Like they are out there and if they're not out there for some reason, if they're injured or whatever, you're marching a hole. And like, it's crazy. I don't know. I don't know. It's something you put out there to stand on and stand.
Right? Not to discredit sports in any way, but you usually have a superstar on a team. And you really can't have that in this kind of activity because that kind of is a tough thing to deal with. You've got a superstar and then the rest of the group. I would rather have a lot of hard workers and no superstars, my opinion. But yeah, but good for that kid.
Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but I like my social media, and I've seen some things on social media this week that I want to tell you about. Sightings on social media. Texas A&M. Are you ready for this? Mm-hmm. Texas A&M. They had a pep band perform at a swim meet.
I like it.
I know. Their band members were like standing on the diving platforms. Oh, it was so cool. That's on the College Marching Instagram account. So if anybody wants to go look that up, just go at College Marching. All one word.
See that picture scrolling real quick. I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. Keep going.
It's like, what is this? It's weird. It's band people just somewhere strange. Because if you've never been to a swim meet, you might not necessarily know what that is.
That's great.
Right.
What songs do you play at a swim meet?
I love seeing like the band represented at these other college events too.
Honestly, every team and everyone, I'm not even gonna say team, everyone needs a hype man. If we could all walk around with our own like pep band, come on, tell me how cool that would be.
and they could give you like dramatic music when like something's about to happen. Right. Give you ominous music before you walk into a dark building or something. Okay, here's another good one for you guys. The Marple, am I saying that right? Marple Newton in Pennsylvania, their band got their own outdoor practice field. We're talking lined, dotted logo, and nobody can touch it but the marching band.
Wait,
amazing.
This is high school?
It looks like something from Pieware on their field.
This is high school?
Yeah.
It's a high school band? Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Same.
So jealous. It's Newtown. Oh, Newtown.
What did I totally said that wrong. Here I was worried about saying Marple wrong and Newtown.
No, that's very cool. There's so many times, we talk about how, we'll lose gym space, or we can't go into the cafeteria, or, the cafeteria is what we have. Or if you are, a marching band that marches on in a parking lot. Somebody hasn't moved their car, this, that, and the other, yada, yada. No one is ever going to touch this field. Like, this is your field. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh, jealous. But have you, like, honestly, Marple, whoever did it for you, like, send out a note to everybody else, because I feel like other groups need it too.
Yeah, that should be an email to every district in the country.
All of the high schools, all of the colleges. Let's go. Let's get some marching band fields going here. All right, everyone. Thank you all for such a great rehearsal this week. Thank you to our hosts, Nicole, Thom, Cindy, Whitney, and Trevor. Thanks to the amazing guests, Lawrence Major, Sandi Tait, and Colleen Drach. You can follow the Greater Kensington String Band at Greater Kensington String Band, all one word. To learn more about the Mummers, go to mummersmuseum.com. Go subscribe. Write us a review, share this with a friend, and we'll see you at the next rehearsal on a water break.
Go practice.
Yes.
Bye.